let's go back to what Mark was just talking about. Just for what I'd love to do is to sort of go through your biography, which is absolutely, or autobiography, which is absolutely gripping, and start with your dad. But on this issue of sort of machines versus human beings, that's one of the great things about your work, and not only what you do, but what you write about in the Land magazine, which is, as Victoria said, is one of our favourite magazines. And a sort of ongoing theme in the Land is Scythes versus Strimmer. And can you tell us a bit, before we go back to your early life, tell us about how you got into Scythes? And I think you do these sort of, we had you at Port Eliot doing scythe lessons. You know, friends of mine have come down to do scything courses at Monkton Wyld, where you now live. Can you sort of mount a defence for us of the scythe against its sort of more modern competitor, which is the Strimmer?
Well, which do you want? The how I got into it, or the defence?
Well, how you got into it, and then
I'll start with how I got into it.
Yeah.
Which was that I lived for about 10 years on a community in Somerset called Tinker's Bubble, which had as its main philosophy and strategy a rule of no fossil fuels on the 40 acres that we managed, which included 13 acres of grass. And we needed to make hay, so we had to do it with scythes, because we weren't allowed to use any machines. So we got hold of these old second-hand, rather worm-eaten English scythes and tried to teach ourselves, very unsuccessfully, well, quite unsuccessfully. It wasn't a very popular job. The grass would fall over and then bounce back as soon as you come. You thought you cut it, and then you look behind, you realize you hadn't. We gradually got better, but it wasn't until I picked up some Austrian scythes, which are much lighter than the British and American ones, and easy to sharpen, and we did much better with those. And then I read a book called The Scythe Book, where the author, David Tressenberg, had exactly the same experience, and had then gone off to Austria, where they make them, where they have these competitions. So I did the same. I went off to Austria, found myself in a competition in the middle of Steyr with all these young farmers who were absolutely extraordinary. I don't think I can demonstrate here what it's actually like doing a competition.
Well, you're on the Strand at the moment, so it'd be a wonderful spectacle to see you scything down the Strand.
Well, I'm not as lithe and lissom as these young 30-year-old athletes. But anyway, it's very impressive. They can mow about 10 meters in a minute, 100 square meters in a minute.
Wow.
Or a minute or two. I took about 4 of these back to England, and people tried them. They thought, well, these are good. And so I got in about 20, and that's how I got into importing scythes, and I became a petty capitalist, really, but rather more by accident than design.